Everybody to the very first podcast of the new show, Will I Be Right or Will I Be Wrong? With me tonight is Ja Red. How you doing tonight, Ja?
Doing good. Glad to be here.
Awesome. Do you got some picks for us tonight?
I got a couple games I'm looking at for the weekend, definitely.
Okay, so let me tell everybody kind of the format here. So what we're going to do tonight is Ja Red is going to give two of his plays, and he's going to say why he likes them, and I'm going to tell him, whether I think he's right or he's wrong. And then vice versa, I'll give two plays, and then he's going to tell me whether I'm right or I'm wrong. So why don't we just jump right into it? What's your first play you got for us?
The first game I was eyeing for this weekend is an NFL game. It's the Chargers go to Washington to face the Redskins. Redskins are 2-5. Chargers are 4-3 off a bye week. The Chargers have a few things going against them in this game. Besides the rest, they have the 10 a.m. start, as well as the cross-country travel.
Yeah, it's brutal.
The Chargers have been successful, actually, in this spot. In the last 4 or 5 games, they've actually won the majority of those, covering the spread even, going back 3 seasons. But this spot, I think their luck runs out at the 10 a.m. start time on the East Coast. And frankly, the Chargers players were tweeting before this bye week about how they wanted to ride the momentum of their 3-game win streak. And nothing stops a bye week, or nothing stops the momentum like a bye week. So I think that might be going against them as well.
Yeah, that's definitely true. Some teams, it's funny, a bye week can help them. Other teams, it, like you said, it can stop momentum. And then that might be the case for San Diego this time. But yeah, you're right. This game opened as a pick'em. San Diego is currently favored by 1 right now. But I agree. The early start time and the look ahead to Denver, those are 2 tough things. 67% of the public right now is on San Diego. That's not too high. I want to look at that too much. So I guess at the end of the day, looking at this game, I would say you're probably right. I would lean towards that. Yeah,
the Bronco look ahead is something I forgot to mention. I'm glad you mentioned that. That's huge in this game. There's no matter what the Chargers team's going to say, they have to be eyeing next week. It's a division game next week, and it's the Broncos, who everyone has been anointing as the league's best.
Yep.
Another thing is it's more of a fade on San Diego than it is a play on Washington. I still haven't pulled the trigger on this yet, but I definitely think it's a game to keep your eye on, and you'll find out whether it will be right or will it be wrong.
All right, so what do you got for us tonight for your second game?
Second game is also in the NFL. It's a primetime matchup of 2 AFC South teams. They actually are switching roles this year, as the normal favorites in that division are the Texans. Now everyone's looking to the Colts as the new favorite. And the Colts are actually playing their 3rd consecutive primetime game, which is pretty rare. They're both off bye weeks.
Right.
And, however, the Colts are off what we all saw as an emotional win against Peyton Manning at home. And, it looks like a spot that the Colts might be due for a letdown, even though they had the bye week. But they're also in a weird spot for being the division favorite and having the pressure of the Texans now nipping at their heels. That line opened at 1. It got bet up to 2.5.
Yeah.
The home team is getting points now. I think it's worth keeping an eye on. I definitely lean to the Texans this weekend, and that's another game where we'll find out if I'm right or will I be wrong.
I'm gonna go with you again, and I'm not just going with you just to say that you're right. I actually think Houston is probably the play here. Like you said, the line's gone up to 2.5. Houston's a home dog. Both teams are coming off a bye. But, you talked about momentum before in the previous game that you picked. And like the Colts, I think this kind of slows their momentum down a little bit coming off that big win. But for Houston, this is that bye, they needed it. They got a backup quarterback, Case Keenum. He's got 2 weeks now to prepare for this game. Foster's banged up. He's going to be a little healthier coming into this game. And it's a must-win for him. I mean, they dropped 5 in a row. They're not out of it yet, though. They can still get back into that race, but they need a win at home.
Yeah, just like the Steelers at the Jets, where Tomlin convinced that team they still had a shot in the division. I think this is a similar game where the Texans, if they beat the Colts, they can convince themselves at least that they're in the division still.
Yeah, so this is a huge game for Houston. They're back, literally against the wall. They have to win this game. So we'll see what happens. The home team in this matchup, an interesting stat, is 6-0 against the spread. So we'll see if that trend continues, and we'll see if you're right there with your Houston pick plus 2.5. The two games I'm looking at this week are actually in college. So you have the two pros. I'm going with college. And the first game I'm looking at is between the Florida State Seminoles and the Miami Hurricanes. Now, I whiffed, a couple weeks ago big time. I had Clemson at home. I read too much into the home field advantage. Florida State just went in there and pounded them. But I think, in a game that's a big rival game like this, it doesn't really matter how good the other team is. We've seen it so many times. The games always are almost down to the wire. And 22 points is a lot of points to lay. And actually, the last 11 times these teams have met, the underdog is 11-0 against the spread. And I just think that 22 points is too many points. I like the defensive speed of Miami. I think they're going to be able to come in there and cause a little bit of havoc with Winston, even though he's been phenomenal. This will be the first game, his first real test. I mean, they play in the ACC, so neither team has really had a test. And Miami hasn't looked great, but I think they're going to be up for this game. I think this game is going to be much closer than that line. What do you think?
I consider the game at Clemson to be a test, and I think that Florida State proved that they're one of the best teams in the nation.
Definitely.
The 11-0 stat scares me when they're hanging a 22 for the dog. It scares me when they're hanging out 22 points. That would be my only concern. I do see where the points would look attractive. All these players played against each other in high school, and most everyone on these 80% of these rosters are all from Florida. So they should be familiar with each other, and I think that's why that no matter how big the spread is, these games are usually close.
Right.
However, it's hard to bet against this kid Winston.
Yeah, he is phenomenal.
He might win the Heisman, and according to the way that Florida State's been playing, it's hard to bet against him. I think that's a scary bet, and Florida State was giving up 31 points last week to a much more inferior team than Miami. That line scares me. It just seems like a little bait to me. I think I have to pass on that one.
Yeah, it's definitely a Vegas line that they're kind of begging you to take the points. I mean, it's a lot of points. Last week I had Ohio State, and at 16 I said Vegas is just begging you to take the points at Penn State. I loved Ohio State to blow them out, and that's exactly what happened. And I get it, but I just think that these games are always to the wire. I don't know if this one's going to come down to the wire, but I think that it will fall within the number. So we'll see if I'm wrong or I'm right at the end of the day. My second game is actually a Friday night game, and it's Oregon State versus USC. And I like the Beavers -5. I think it's at 5.5, maybe even 6 by now. I'm not sure. I didn't get a chance to look. But USC struggles in Corvallis. They struggle in playing in Oregon, period. When they had championship teams, they would go up and they would lose to the Beavers. They can't win in Corvallis. One thing I don't like is the fact that last week, Oregon State played Stanford, and the team that's played Stanford, I believe, hasn't covered the next weekend. But I think that isn't going to apply here. I think that the Beavers are going to find a way to move the ball, even without a run game, on the Trojans. The Trojans have not been good on the road this year. They've only won one time, and that was in Hawaii, but they didn't cover that spread. And all 3 times they've been on the road this year, they haven't covered a spread yet. So I just think that this is a really tough spot for them the day after Halloween, and I think that the Beavers are going to roll. What do you think?
It's another spot where it's hard to go against the home team. Friday nights have been historically very good for home teams and home favorites. And I watched that line open up at 4 at Pinnacle. Got it. Yeah. I saw it move to 5 pretty quick. It stayed there about 5 most of the week. I think that the wild card here is the Trojans' defense. I didn't see Trey Madden on the injury list this week with that 3-headed attack that the Trojans have. And the Trojans' defense combined, they could slow this game down.
Definitely.
And they have the ability to make Oregon State's offense into a one-dimensional team, but they haven't shown they can do that on the road, like you said.
Right.
They've been getting smoked on the road defensively. At home, they've been a whole different team. Last week, they held Utah to 3 points. Only 201 yards offense for the entire game. That's big time. It's going to be a lot harder against Sean Mannion and Brandon Cooks, who's been just insane. I have a hard time making a bet on USC, but at the same time, that team hasn't won there since 2004, and that's going to be a huge motivation with the team that has really nothing to lose with the new coach Orgeron.
It's true.
I think that's another pass for me. I think it's a scary bet either way. I'm gonna push out and pass.
All right. So both my plays were 2 passes by Ja Red. He wasn't on board with them. I went ahead and backed him on both his plays. And he took Houston plus 2.5. He took Washington, San Diego -1 in that one. I liked Miami plus 22 and Oregon State -5. And I think that's just about going to do it for us tonight. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's a good look towards the weekend. It's always a little early to be placing wagers, but if you feel strongly about something and maybe you match up, fire on it. If not, it's always a good idea to use all the information you have, and then when you're comfortable, then make the bet. But those are 2 games to look at from the NFL and 2 from the college rankings that will be big matchups this weekend, and we'll be looking forward to see how they turn out.
All right, guys, that's going to do it from here. Streaksetter signing off. Ja Red saying goodbye. Remember, always do your own research before you lock it down. Take care.